We are now live, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Sarah. Welcome councillors, staff and community members that have joined us tonight via webcast. Due to rapidly evolving events in the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, it is agreed for everyone's safety to conduct tonight's public forum remotely. I remind our viewers that we are still bound by a public health order that currently restricts large gatherings in confined spaces and requirements in physical distancing. Council have a responsibility to ensure our community, staff and all councillors are safe. That includes creating a safe environment. Our priority is the safety of our community and our staff and of course the councillors. It is with that in mind that we monitor the circumstances week to week and consider all the factors. To remain up to date with current information, please check out federal and state government websites. For council-run facilities and events, please check our website. Being COVID safe is everybody's responsibility. Please play your part by ensuring you practice physical distancing, good hand hygiene, and stay at home if you are sick. Avoid crowded places that would limit you to being able to physically distance yourself from others. If you are in a crowded space, for example on public transport, take precautions and wear a mask. I now declare the public forum open. We are holding the public forum today to hear from community members who have registered to speak on items before the council meeting tonight. I ask that the community members be listened to in silence and with respect. I would like to remind those watching that due to the public health order, we continue to hold meetings remotely and update the public on any changes that may occur. I am pleased to advise that the public forum will include members of the public joining us remotely. They will be able to address council and councillors may choose to ask questions. I'd like to remind the speakers and indeed everybody that the forum is being webcast. This means that your image and what you say will be broadcast live to the public and it is also recorded. Please be mindful of what you say and avoid making any statements that may defame or offend anybody. Council is not responsible for your actions. Please switch your mobile phones to off or onto silent for the duration of the forum. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet, the Dark and Young people, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Do any councillors or staff have any conflicts of interest to disclose in the matters being discussed at the forum tonight, which is item 2.1, the outcome of exhibition planning proposal related to the Precinct 2A, 2B North Wyong structure plan, and item 6.4, the notice of motion Womble Task Force. I would like to declare a pecuniary interest in item 2.1, the outcome of the exhibition of planning proposal related to precincts 2A and 2B North Wyong structure plan. I will be leaving the public forum for the speakers to address this item. Do I have any other declarations on those two matters? No, I don't. Thank you, councillors. I remind again community members registered to speak that you'll have 3 minutes to present and that your presentation is being live streamed and recorded. Once your presentation has concluded, please be advised that councillors may have some questions they wish to ask. At the completion of the presentation and questions, we will ask you to stop sharing your video and mute your microphone and allow others to address council. I note the following people have requested to address the public forum tonight. John Van Laar, item 2.1, outcome of the public exhibition planning proposal related to precinct 2A, 2B North Wyong Shire structure plan, and he will be speaking against. Chris Smith, 2.1, outcome of the exhibition of the planning proposal related to precinct 2A, 2B North Wyong Shire structure plan, and he is speaking for. John Waddell, 2.1, outcome of the exhibition of the planning proposal related to precincts 2A, 2B, North Wyong Shire structure plan, and he also is speaking for. And Justin Hickey, 6.4, notice of motion, Womble Task Force is for. As I have declared a pecuniary interest in item 2.1, the outcome of the planning proposal related to precinct 2A, 2B, North Wyong Shire Structure Plan, I will be vacating the chair and Deputy Mayor Smith will assume the chair for the Speaker's address on this item. Please be patient while staff make the necessary arrangements. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. I think the Mayor has left the meeting, so I will now invite Mr Van Laar to speak. Mr Van Laar, I remind you that you have 3 minutes to address the council. So I'm just checking if... thank you, Mr Van Laar. Please proceed. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Deputy Mayor, councillors and staff. We need your urgent consideration for deferral of your decision to rezone Lot 109 Lexington Avenue, Wadalba, included in item 2.1 tonight. We have only just received an email from Council 1 business day prior to this important rezoning decision. We have been in the process of submitting a DA to build a house during the past 2 years on our land. With all the new biodiversity reports, it's been an experience. The original cleared building zone, which was approved in 2007 when Yarramba Estate subdivided the original land of 240 Johns Road, and has our power box, sewer connections and water ready to build since the original subdivision. We have paid rates for these services for 12 years and will lose all costs so far if rezoning to E2 without consideration is done tonight. Since we found out under the new draft plan our building area was to be compromised, we have tried to get a DA approved under the existing draft plan to preserve our existing building entitlements and services. This land area of our building envelope will be rezoned E2 if this is passed tonight, and our current DA application to build a family home and the considerable expenses to date will be for nothing but financial heartache, which has cost us over $76,000 in environmental surveys, council rates and applications and builders costs so far. Council has rejected our DA on 3 occasions in the past 12 months due to incomplete environmental biodiversity reports, and we have almost completed all additional environmental surveys to get approval. Our ecological surveys to date have shown none of the endangered flora or fauna to which council and state government have been concerned as not to exist or be of little impact. The final surveys are almost complete due to the flowering season of the Wyong sun orchid being in season now, with the second survey being completed on Sunday showing no flowers at all existing by TB Environmental Services Proprietary Limited Wyong. Councillors, we are not wealthy people and this land is our only retirement asset, and we are hoping to share costs with our newly married son to build a new house here. We have raised these concerns with our state member and some current and previous councillors during the exhibition phase with little feedback to our concerns. With our reply to the exhibition phase, or why we're losing 90% of our land to E2 zoning, it stated the portion of the site zoned E2 consideration is located in an area which preservation of land for squirrel glider habitat has been designated. This land is mapped on the biodiversity values map and the requirements of Biodiversity Conservation Act apply. But we have talked to the state government on this and they only have an interest in the Wyong orchid lily on this block, nothing to do with sugar glider habitats or anything. Their only concern is the Wyong lily, which we have just shown does not exist. I thank you for your time. Any questions, please?
Thank you, Mr Van Laar. Councillors, are there any questions for the Speaker? Councillor Hogan, have you got your hand up? Yes, Councillor Hogan, yes.
Councillor Hogan, hello.
Councillor Hogan, I might just, there you go, thank you.
I unmuted, staff unmuted. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jane Smith, and thank you for coming in, Mr Van Laar. Just a question around the services. So the services are already in place, is that correct?
That is correct. Only at the building zone. To move it down to the bottom where everyone says, oh, we can just move down the bottom, is almost impossible, because we'd have to get access through another person's property. There's no services down the bottom, and they're not going to be there for a few years. I want to build now, not in a few years' time.
And at what cost would that be to you, do you think?
I have no idea, probably in the hundreds of thousands.
Thank you, Mr. Van Laar.
Thank you, Councillor Hogan. Councillors, are there any other speakers? Any other questions? Councillor Sundstrom?
Thank you, Madam Deputy, and thanks, Mr. Van Laar. You asked for a deferral. How long do you think deferral should be, and what would happen in the meantime? What's the reason for a deferral?
Well, the deferral is to not rezone the block E2, because the presence of the Wyong lily does not exist. So we're applying to the environmental, the state government environmental department, to have our block removed from the mapping, from the endangered species mapping, which they've agreed to. I've just been off the phone to them half an hour ago, and they said, well, if the Wyong lily Wyong orchid doesn't exist on the property, there is no reason to have the mapping on it. So therefore, the council's placing the E2 on it for the sugar glider or squirrel glider possum is a bit spurious, because the state government has no interest in a squirrel glider possum, only in the Wyong orchid, which is a critically endangered species. And that's the only reason our property is on the map.
Thank you, sir. It doesn't look like I have any other questions. So thank you very much, Mr. Van Laar.
Thank you for your time, everybody. Have a good evening.
All right, thank you. Councillors, I will now invite Mr. Chris Smith to speak on the same item. Mr. Smith, I just remind you that you have 3 minutes. The meeting's live streamed and recorded, and the staff will just unmute you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wish to speak in qualified support for the planning proposal seeking to rezone the Woodalba East precinct. I say qualified because whilst it's great to see that after 10 years this rezoning come before council in its final form, and I think all parties are keen to see this application finalised, there are a number of matters within this report which have raised concern to the consulting team and members of the Woodalba East Landowner Group, or WELOG. Point number 1, recommendation number 4 states that the application should be finalised after the adoption of the new Warnervale Contributions Plan. As councillors will be aware, this is a separate item on tonight's agenda, item 2.4, and if supported, the draft contributions plan still has a number of steps to complete before it's operational, which we expect would take 6 months or more, given the upcoming Christmas holiday period. We think this delay is unnecessary and unreasonable delay to the rezoning process, and that finalisation of the rezoning can occur as a separate action in parallel to council finalising the Greater Warnervale Contribution Plan. I should point out that there will be at least 12 months before the first DAs in Woodalba East are ready for determination, which should be ample time for council to finalise the draft contributions plan. Number 2, we are concerned with the increasing biodiversity requirements, both at council and state level, which will have a significant impact on residential yields planned for this strategic area. This area has been on the urban release radar for decades, renamed 2A and 2B in the 2010 as part of the Department of Planning's North Wyong Shire Structure Plan. In 2010, the department had forecast 1,040 homes in this release area. This housing is to be part of the 75,000 new residents forecast for the Central Coast to the 2036. The Department of Planning has since revised upwards the number of new residents by 92,000 by 2041. So it's clearly, from a department perspective, there is great demand for new housing across the Central Coast. Yet, throughout the several years of assessment process, there was a difference of opinions with expert reports in respect to the width of green corridors. Our greater concern is that throughout the report, staff have indicated that the potential further widening of the corridors and further retention of vegetation on a site-by-site basis as future DAs are submitted. This is seen on pages 39 and 43 of Council's report. Number 3, our assessment has revealed a number of inconsistencies and uncertainties between the draft Warnervale contribution plan and draft DCP contained within this report. There's a number of different points. I won't go right into those in details, but it's suffice to say that the current draft DCP before Council is significantly different to the version advertised in 2018, and for this reason alone should be re-advertised. For the above reasons again, we ask that Council separate the rezoning process from the contributions and DCP process until the inconsistencies and uncertainties are resolved.
Mr. Smith, I will just note that your time is up. So if you could just wrap up there, that would be great. Thank you.
I'm not too far, Madam Chair, but this is a big exercise, and I'm speaking on behalf of multiple landowners. So I'm just asking for just a few more minutes. It's not
not a few more minutes. I'd ask you to wrap up, please.
Okay. Infrastructure. This is not one developer; it's multiple developers. I'll jump to. In item 3.1 tonight, Council's talking about the economic
Mr. Smith, just hold on. I'll give you 1 minute extension if I can get support from the councillors, but then that will be it. So move Councillor McLaughlin, seconded Councillor Holstein. All in favour? Any opposed? Okay, you have 1 minute, Mr. Smith, and then you will need to finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Infrastructure, particularly sewer, on a number of occasions, the report has referred to the developer, but it's not one. There are over 30 individuals covering over 39 parcels. In the past, it may have been council that headed rezonings or the state, but in this case, it's been the landowners. The sewer servicing strategy has been adopted for the precinct. These works are recoverable by council, but unfortunately, the plan for the strategy is not planned for delivery until 2036. What we're asking for is that council bring forward its timing so that the works can coincide with this rezoning application. Next point is that internal consultation. It seems to be limited, but it does not appear to have been referred to council's internal economic development team. We're not sure whether council themselves have done a lot yield for the area and has understood the development costs, which equate to approximately $55,000 in fees and charges and contributions per lot created. In closing, in 2010, this was identified for medium release timing. We are well overdue for its delivery, and the time the coast needs these extra jobs and stimulus is now. On behalf of the Wadalba East residents, we seek for council's consideration to bring forward sewer and other matters and to keep this rezoning going.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Councillors, are there any questions for Mr. Smith? And if I could just get you to type into the chat box, that would make it a little bit more orderly, if I could. So I'm not seeing anybody typing in there. Councillor Best? Councillor Best.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
I can see none of the participants on my screen. I can only see you as the chair. So it's a little limited out here. Mr. Smith, who I can't see, thank you for addressing us this evening. There's been around this very protracted ongoing exercise, a view in council that there'll be that works will be done at no cost to council. But isn't it no additional cost to council? You know the question I'm asking, don't you, Chris?
Yes, Councillor Best.
And I have a supplementary question. Please go ahead.
Sure.
Thank you.
Back in 2012, the department, the planning minister put up and had asked for calls of interest for release areas. He did say at that call it was no additional cost to release these areas. That has been changed along the ways to read no cost to council or the state. The original wording was no additional cost. We are saying that the costs before us in terms of infrastructure delivery are not additional. They're already in planned infrastructure strategies for 2026. We're simply asking that those planned works are brought forward to now to coincide with the rezoning. And that'll lead to obviously job delivery now in COVID times as opposed to
Thank you. The issue that you raise around this matter being referred, I note on page 40 of the staff report that this matter has been referred to the development engineering, environment strategy, natural resources, flooding and drainage and engineering, but there's been no consultation around the economic capacity of this rather large development, if I can call it that. what concerns do you hold that we have not drilled down on the viability of this when you add, you know, your drainage, your sewage, your SIC, your contributions, your 94, you know, the studies. I mean, when you do all that analysis financially, could we get to a conclusion that this thing's just not viable, but we've not tested that?
Absolutely, Councillor Best. At two levels. One, it's on the straight out the viability, because original numbers were done for 1,040 lots or thereabouts. We've done a recent assessment and we can see already that the yield is probably reduced by 20% across the precinct. Now, this leads into the provision of infrastructure. Sewer strategies have been designed on the higher yield based on the earlier assumptions, and it becomes ineffective as the lot yield reduces. The cost per lot is increasing throughout the whole project. So we're certainly concerned about that. And again, this is the economic side of council. We time and time again, we see that this was described as a $750 million project. By the time you add individual dwellings, the subdivision of land, the civil works, the contributions that are payable back to council, both in terms of general open space and so forth, and also water and sewer, all that money comes back into council. But I'm not seeing anywhere in council's assessment that they do consider these facts into their assessment of the project.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
And finally, Madam Chair, I have one last
Councillor Best.
Thank you, Madam. As always, appreciate you. Advertisement. You mentioned a cogent point a while ago that you think that the whole thing has changed so much that it really should be advertised. So the Wadalba Land Group, are they fully behind the time constraints that may generate if we re-advertise? But I understand what you're raising it for. I just don't want to suggest something that's going to now stall the development when you're talking about parallels in other areas for time constraints.
Yeah, look. Thank you, Mr. Best. As we briefly mentioned on the outset, that I believe that there's two separate pathways, or we believe that there's two separate pathways. One is to complete the rezoning. Other matters like contribution plans and DCPs are matters that can be separated from the rezoning process, and they can be dealt with in time, because we do have more than 12 months from today till the first DAs are going through council. Now, that should be ample time to revise and remove any of these inconsistencies and get the matters sorted out correctly and get those plans at the council plans adopted in a parallel pathway. Not hold back the rezoning, but tidy up the internal policies.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Councillor McLaughlin, you had a question.
No, I think it's just been answered. I was asking about the delay on the advertising. Chris, thanks for coming in. So you don't want a delay. You don't want it re-advertised and delayed. Is that what you're saying?
I'd like to, Councillor McLaughlin, I'd like to separate the proposal from the rezoning. Should continue on its pathway as proposed, except for correct. The rezoning can go, but the DCP and the draft contributions are separate matters. They are only council matters, separate to the processing of the rezoning. They can be separated because ample time to deal with those issues separately.
All right, thank you.
Just hang on a sec. So you're asking council to proceed as it is tonight? Is that what you're? The owners are happy with that? The owners are happy with what's on the table? Or?
Look, they've been waiting 10 years, so they don't want to see the whole process fall off the rails at the moment. They want to separate the rezoning from the inconsistencies in council's draft DCP.
And how does that sit in the notice of motion?
Condition number 4, recommendation number 4, sorry, that talks about it should happen after the adoption of the draft contributions plan. So we're saying condition number 4 needs to be amended to, I'm not saying not do it, but not do it just now. What we're saying is continue with the rezoning, but in relation to anything to do with the contribution plan, there is still time up council's sleeve to resolve the issues before the DAs are ready to pop out in this area.
Okay,
all right.
thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. I have no other questions, so we'll move on to the next speaker. So I'd like to now invite Mr. John Waddell to speak on the same item. Welcome, Mr. Waddell. I'll remind you that the meeting's being live streamed and recorded, and you have 3 minutes, and the staff will just unmute you now.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Waddell, please
thank
start.
you, Deputy Mayor. My name's John Waddell and I am the Chairman of the Wadalba East Landowners Group. I would like to clarify a few misconceptions that have been spread about the proposal background that new councillors may not be aware of. We are all long-term ratepayers and mostly residents or retired residents of the Central Coast area. The group was formed in 2010, 10 years ago, to try and get this area rezoned. The then council staff said it would be too complicated to deal with so many landowners. As a result, the company Wheeler was formed to deal with the rezoning. The shareholders are the landowners. It's a non-profit group, and no landowner during the past 10 years has received 1 cent for the time they have spent on it or received any funds from the company. They have saved council a huge amount of time and money during these past 5 years. The New South Wales government, through the Minister of Planning in Sydney, said that they were short of residential land about that time, and any individual groups that had over 100 hectares in and around Sydney suitable for residential living to let them know. The group had a number of meetings with the Department of Planning in Sydney, the Finance Department and the Minister, and submit the proposal, which is subsequently approved as a gateway determination. The Minister said they were putting it on their priority list and would like it completed within 18 months. This was 7 years ago in 2013. The gateway determination was approved, as Chris Smith mentioned, on the basis that there would be no additional cost to council. The department said to us, when they discussed it, said no additional cost to council, left open the possibility of council assisting with the finances of the project by reducing the Section 94 contributions because of the amount of time and work the landowners are going to put in. The cost to landowners has been just under $1 million plus for time and effort. It has been a huge saving to council. We asked council to consider a reduction in the Section 94 contributions for this proposal. Chris Smith mentioned the item about the 30-metre wide corridor. We submitted a 30-metre wide corridor, and council staff said they would like it increased to 40 metres, which we did not agree with. They then said they want an independent report, which they would select, and we did that. And the independent report came back that 30 metres wide corridor would be sufficient, the same as the Lake Macquarie Council. A new member council or new colleges there said this was not wide enough, and he still wanted a 40-metre wide corridor, and 40 metres wide was what we had to submit. This was an extra cost of $12,000. We were asked to get the independent report from council. They would not accept one. That went against their views. Will council refund the unnecessary cost of $12,000 for landowners?
Mr. Waddell, your time is up. I do need you to start wrapping up, please, if you could.
We would like councillors to be aware of the delays during these past 7 years. It's a long time since the first gateway determinations, and council have had many years to follow this development. We ask council to approve the rezoning now and instruct staff to get ahead with it. This project will give the council $70 million in fees, create a huge amount of employment for the Central Coast, and circulate approximately $700 million to the Central Coast community.
Thank you, Mr. Waddell. I'll just see if there are any questions for you. So I'm not seeing any, so thank you very much for attending, Mr. Waddell. Councillors, I will just hand back to the Mayor for the last speaker in public forum. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Now move on to item 6. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it is. My apologies. Item 6.4, notice of motion, Womble Task Force. I now invite Mr. Hickey to speak. The meeting staff will unmute you. Thank you. Mr. Hickey, you're not unmuted. I think you might need to press your, yep, there you go.
Does that?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Council. I'm Justin Hickey and I speak in support of item 6.4, Notice of Motion Task Force Wombrel Beach. Public transparency and openness are key in the decision to build a seawall at Wombrel Beach. This decision potentially affects tourism, local business and many thousands of beachgoers. I support both points in the motion as it will build a level of trust in the community which currently does not exist. I am a founding member of a rapidly growing group called Wombrel Beach Save Our Sand. This group is 5 weeks old and has over 2,300 members. The group is evidence-based and the entry criteria is a question: are you opposed to building a seawall at Wombrel Beach? A yes response allows entry. The overwhelming feedback from the group is, one, that people have been unaware of council and state government's preferred option to build a seawall with ongoing sand replenishment, and two, that people are unaware that this 1.6 kilometre whole of bay wall has been previously modelled to accelerate erosion and could lead to the permanent loss of Wombrel Beach. Our group are angry and want the choice: do we build a wall and save the 60 beachfront properties, or do we save our beach? Unfortunately, you can't have both. The events of the last East Coast low and emergency protection works have focused attention, and those 2,300 are ready to be heard in genuine, effective community consultation. What are the costs of these emergency works that have taken away our ability to walk from Wombrel to Terrigal along the beach? Marsden Jacobs 2017 looked at 8 possible solutions, finding a revetment wall provided no cost benefit to the community. The community deserve choice in the options, not just what type of wall will be built. I understand under the Coastal Zone Management Plan, a community consultation process has occurred. In my view, it does not pass the pub test as it has not engaged the many stakeholders such as Wombrel Surf Club members, Wombrel board riders, June Care, local businesses, etc. 4 years ago, roughly, Council advertised for 2 community members to sit on an erosion working group. If those community members were pro-wall lobbyists, this could greatly misrepresent the broad community view. Unfortunately, consultation process has been flawed and we ask you to start again. The CZMP, the State SEP 18 and Coastal Management Act all recognise there must be a genuine broad public engagement. We see and commend this from Council in the case of Tuggerah Lakes, and we ask you to follow a similar process at Wombrel Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey. Councillors, do I have any questions of the Speaker? Councillor Best.
Got me. Justin, you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thank you for coming along this evening, inverted commas, to our Zoom meeting. Look, I hear well what you've outlined, and as a young surfer myself, I protested on Manly Beach to the stinking disaster, which was the Merc at North Head with sewage all over our board. So the public need to be consulted on our coastal issues. Can I ask, are you anti-wall per se, or are you anti-wall, or do you think the group that's out there is anti-wall, or are you anti that like when we did Nora Head as Wyong Council, we had the board riders and the rescue people, we had everybody on side, and that wall's been an overwhelming success in Cabbage Tree Bay. Are you worried about the fact we're not seen, or you don't believe we're consulting enough, or are you just, we don't want a wall? Which is that? And I have a supplementary, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Look, in essence, it is the modelling that I've read previously, Manly hydraulic wall that was modelled in 2003, with it being that long and in a dome shape, it got modelled that it is going to cause erosion to the sand in front of the structure. It's not like, say, Manly or Bondi where it's set back from the waterline. From my understanding, any engineer has to say that it will cause a loss of sand. And so for us, for surfing, for beachgoers, for people that love the beach, we just really want that essentially protected, that put as the number one priority. I understand it is such a complex issue because of the homeowners, and I empathise with them, but For us, we just want to ensure, like at the moment, we don't need ongoing sand replenishment for the social stuff like surfing and those sorts of things at the beach. But what is frightening to me, it's not just anti-wall so much as that we want to protect our amenity. That's it.
So you're not anti-wall, you're just anti the fact that you want to be included in the whole process. Is that reasonable, Justin?
I think, yeah, 100%. Because look,
right, fair enough.
There are many options, and we feel like it's look. I'll give you an analogy. Like, oh, you are going to a party, but you're going to wear pants. Like, we'll give you a choice in the colour of the pants. We want to have choice from the beginning in the possible solution, not just that we've chosen the wall option for you.
Yeah, because we certainly are, no pun intended, between a rock and a hard place. If we don't fortify soon, we'll have to fortify on the curb and guttering eventually, when then the big public assets are in peril. People understand that, don't they?
Well, we've looked into this, and I think it's been overstated, the actual threat. It's been grouped together in public and private assets, but in my understanding, if that was revegetated as a dune, for example, at 9 metres, if it was 12 or 15 metres, then what's the objective risk to public assets behind that sand dune? I know it's so complex because it comes to choosing between, say, some sort of managed retreat or fortifying and trying to make that dune a permanent structure.
So we don't want to lose the road.
Well, from my understanding, again, to find exactly the objective risk of the structures behind that, I think hasn't been put out there exactly what that risk is.
Thank you, Justin.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much. Look forward to.
Thanks, Councillor Best. Are there any other questions of the speaker? No? Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Mr. Hickey. I'd now declare the public forum closed, and you're invited to watch the webcast of the council meeting, which will commence at 6:30 p.m. A link to the webcast can be found on council's website. Thank you, everybody.